It's September 15th, 1944. 0832 hours. Peleliu Island, Palau. Captain George P. Hunt of K Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, hits White Beach with 200 to 35 men. The coral reef tears apart Amtraks. Japanese artillery and mortars shred the beach. Marines are dying in the water before they reach shore. Hunt's got a specific job: secure the left flank. There's a jagged coral ridge jutting into the ocean at the north end of the beach. The Marines call it the Point. It's 30 feet high, 150 yards of sharp volcanic rock and coral, honeycombed with caves. From the Point, Japanese gunners have a perfect field of fire across White Beach too. Every Marine coming ashore is exposed. The Point has to be taken. Hunt doesn't wait for the beach to be secured. He can't. Marines are getting cut down every second. The Point stays in Japanese hands. He grabs what's left of his company after the beach landing, about 90 men still combat effective, and starts moving north along the beach. Mortar rounds walk up the sand. Rifle fire cracks from the coral. Machine guns in the caves rake the shoreline. The assault on the Point isn't textbook. There is no textbook for this terrain. Peleliu's coral is razor sharp. It shreds uniforms, cuts through boots, tears up hands and knees. The caves aren't like anything American intelligence briefed. These aren't simple holes in rock. Japanese engineers have spent months fortifying the Point. Interconnected tunnels, multiple firing positions, reinforced bunkers. The defenders can move through the ridge unseen, pop up anywhere, disappear before the Marines can get a shot. Hunt's men go up the Point the hard way. Grenades into cave mouths, flamethrowers, satchel charges, close quarters fighting with rifles, bayonets, and entrenching tools. By 10:30 hours, K Company controls the surface of the Point. The Marines set up a defensive perimeter on top of the ridge. They've got maybe 35 men in the forward position. The rest of the company is spread out, securing the approaches, dealing with bypassed caves, evacuating wounded. Hunt surveys the position. The Point gives him clear observation over the beaches and inland toward the airfield. The whole reason the Marines are invading this hellhole island. But the position is also completely exposed. Japanese forces are north, east, and south of the Point. The only friendly forces are back on the beach, and they're taking heavy fire. The Point is an island within an island. Hunt's radio man makes contact with Battalion. The message comes back: "Hold the Point. Reinforcements are coming. Just hold." The Japanese know what the Point means strategically. They want it back, and they've got all night to take it. Before we go further, real quick, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? And what time is it where you are? Always cool to see this audience spread across time zones. All right, let's get into what happened next. By 1400 hours, Hunt realizes the reinforcements aren't coming. Not today. Battalion is pinned down. The entire 1st Marine Division is fighting for its life across 5 invasion beaches. The airfield, Peleliu's main objective, is taking heavier fire than intelligence predicted. The Japanese aren't collapsing. They're fighting from prepared positions, and they're good at it. Hunt's got 35 men on top of the Point. No resupply, no reinforcements. The ammunition they carried in is all they have. Water is already running low in the 115-degree heat. They've got 3 30 caliber machine guns, 1 60mm mortar with maybe 40 rounds, rifles, and whatever grenades didn't get used taking the position. The tactical problem is geometry. The Point juts out like a finger into the ocean. Hunt can see Japanese positions on 3 sides. To the north, maybe 400 yards away, there's a heavily fortified area the Marines will later call the 5 Sisters, 5 coral ridges crawling with enemy troops. To the east, inland from the Point, Japanese forces control the high ground. To the south, Japanese units are trying to push the Marines off White Beach. Hunt's position is an exposed salient. Military doctrine says you don't hold salients. They're indefensible. But Hunt doesn't have a choice. If the Japanese retake the Point, they get their firing positions back. Marines will die on that beach for days. The first probe comes at 16:30 hours. 20 Japanese soldiers moving up the coral from the north. They're testing the defenses, looking for weak points. Hunt's Marines open fire at 75 yards. The attackers pull back. That's when Hunt understands what he's dealing with. The Japanese aren't going to charge blindly. They're going to methodically destroy his position. At 18:15 hours, with daylight fading, the Japanese hit harder. 50 men, maybe more, attacking from 2 directions simultaneously. Rifle fire from the caves below the point. Grenades arcing up onto the ridge. Hunt's machine gunners pour fire into the assault. Bodies pile up on the coral. The attack breaks. Then the mortars start. Japanese mortar teams have the point ranged perfectly. Rounds drop onto the ridge with mechanical precision. There's no cover. The coral is too hard to dig into. Marines press themselves into whatever depressions they can find. Shrapnel ricochets off rock. Corporal Anderson takes a mortar fragment through the shoulder. Private First Class McNulty gets hit in the leg. The corpsman, pharmacist's mate, Second Class John Bradley, works through the barrage. There's no way to evacuate wounded. They stay on the point. Night falls at 1900 hours. Hunt has maybe 30 men still combat effective. They've burned through a quarter of their ammunition. The Japanese own the darkness. Marines can hear them moving through the caves below, calling to each other, preparing for the next assault. Hunt knows what's coming. The real attack hasn't started yet. The Japanese are going to hit them all night, every night, until there's nobody left on the point. And Battalion still can't send help. The Marines dig in as best they can, and wait for it to get worse. The first major assault comes at 0200 hours, September 16th. Hunt is checking positions when he hears it. Japanese voices, close, maybe 50 yards down the slope. Then grenades, dozens of them, arcing up out of the darkness onto the point. Explosions ripple across the ridge. Before the Marines can react, the Japanese are coming up the coral. This isn't a probe. This is a full company assault, maybe 150 men, hitting from the north and east simultaneously. Muzzle flashes light up the darkness. Tracers from Hunt's machine guns slash down into the attackers. The Marines are firing blind, aiming at shadows and sounds. Japanese soldiers make it to within 20 yards of the Marine positions before concentrated fire stops them. The attack lasts 17 minutes. When it breaks, there are bodies scattered across the coral approaches. Hunt counts casualties. 3 Marines dead, 5 wounded. They're down to 27 men. At 0445 hours, the Japanese try again. This time they lead with grenades and mortars, trying to suppress the Marine positions before the infantry assault. Hunt realizes the pattern. The Japanese have limited ammunition, too. They're timing their attacks to maximize effect while conserving resources. This is going to be a war of attrition, and Hunt is losing. That's when Hunt makes the decision that saves the position. He pulls his perimeter in. Instead of trying to defend the entire top of the point, he consolidates his remaining men into a tight defensive position on the highest ground. The 3 machine guns form a triangle of overlapping fire. Riflemen fill the gaps. The 60mm mortar crew has orders to drop rounds directly in front of the Marine positions. Danger close, inside 50 yards. The tighter perimeter means the Japanese can get closer before taking fire. It also means every Marine can support every other Marine. No gaps, no weak points. When the Japanese come up the coral, they hit a wall of concentrated firepower. At 0630 hours, with dawn breaking, the Japanese launch their biggest assault yet. Hunt estimates 200 men, attacking from 3 directions. They're trying to overwhelm the position through sheer numbers. The machine guns start cycling through belts. Riflemen fire until their barrels are too hot to touch. The 60mm mortar drops rounds 30 yards out. Japanese soldiers stumble through the explosions. Keep coming. Corporal John Teskovich is on the northernmost machine gun. He's firing in controlled bursts, trying to make every round count. A grenade lands 5 feet from his position. Teskovich kicks it back down the slope. It detonates mid-air. He keeps firing. When his assistant gunner takes a round through the chest, Private First Class Eugene Sledge, who will later write one of the most famous memoirs of the Pacific War, takes over feeding the belt. The assault breaks at 07:03 hours. The Japanese pull back, leaving over 60 dead on the coral. Hunt takes stock. 23 men left, maybe 200 rounds per rifle. 2 machine guns still operational. The third took a direct mortar hit. The 60mm mortar is down to 11 rounds. Hunt radios Battalion. The message is direct. K Company is holding, but they need ammunition and water. Battalion responds, relief column is forming. Hold until 1600 hours. Hunt looks at his 23 Marines. They've been fighting for 22 hours straight. No sleep, no food, water is gone. The Japanese have hit them 6 times and they're going to hit them again. But the point is still in Marine hands. September 16th, 1200 hours. The Japanese aren't waiting until dark. They're hitting the point in broad daylight now. Hunt realizes why. They've spotted the Marine relief column forming up on White Beach. If reinforcements reach the point, the Japanese lose their chance to retake the position. This is their last shot. The attack comes from all sides. Japanese infantry using every piece of cover, moving through the cave system, emerging from positions the Marines thought they'd cleared. Hunt's perimeter is maybe 40 yards across now. 23 Marines in a circle on top of a coral ridge, surrounded. Private First Class Russell Davis is on the eastern edge of the perimeter when he sees movement in a cave mouth 15 feet below his position. He drops 2 grenades. The explosions seal the entrance, but rifle fire erupts from another opening 10 yards south. The caves are connected. The Japanese can pop up anywhere. At 12:45 hours, a Japanese knee mortar team finds the range. The knee mortar, Type 89 grenade discharger, isn't actually a mortar. It's a specialized grenade launcher, but it's effective. Rounds start dropping into the Marine perimeter with terrifying accuracy. There's nowhere to go. The Marines are packed tight. Each explosion hits someone. Sergeant James McAuliffe takes shrapnel through his left arm and keeps firing his rifle. Corporal Teskovich is hit again, this time fragments in his back and legs. He stays on the machine gun. When the barrel starts glowing red from sustained fire, he pisses on it to cool it down. The barrel cracks but keeps working. Hunt is everywhere, moving between positions, redistributing ammunition from casualties to Marines still fighting. They're down to 30 rounds per man. The 2 operational machine guns have maybe 300 rounds between them. The 60mm mortar crew fires their last rounds at 13:15 hours. That's when Hunt sees it. Fresh Japanese troops moving up from the north. Not exhausted soldiers who've been attacking all night. These are reinforcements, at least 100 men, moving into assault positions. Hunt does the math. 23 Marines. No mortars, almost no ammunition, no water for 18 hours, against a fresh company of Japanese infantry. Hunt gets on the radio. His transmission is 3 words. We need help. Battalion responds, relief column is moving. ETA 30 minutes. Can you hold? Hunt looks at his Marines. Teskovich is still on the gun, despite being hit twice. McAuliffe is firing one-handed, his shattered left arm hanging useless. Private First Class Joseph Aumann is sharing his last 15 rounds with the Marine next to him. These men have held this position for 28 hours against everything the Japanese could throw at them. Hunt keys the radio. We'll hold. At 14:05 hours, the Japanese launch their final assault. 200 men, moving fast, trying to overrun the position before the relief force arrives. The 2 Marine machine guns open up. Rifles crack. Marines are firing their last magazines. Teskovich's gun runs dry. He picks up a rifle from a dead Marine and keeps shooting. Then, at 14:23 hours, Hunt hears it. Marine rifles firing from the south. Heavy machine gun fire. The relief force isn't waiting to get organized. They're coming up the point shooting, hitting the Japanese assault from behind. The Japanese attack collapses. Caught between Hunt's defenders and the relief force, They pull back into the caves and withdraw north toward the Five Sisters. By 1445 hours, fresh Marines from L Company are on top of the point, bringing ammunition, water, and corpsmen. Captain Hunt does a final head count. 8 men from his original 35-man force are still combat effective. 8. The rest are dead or wounded. But the point is still in Marine hands. The Japanese never took it back. The relief of the point doesn't end the fight. L Company takes over the position, and the Japanese keep attacking. For 3 more days, Marine units hold that coral ridge against repeated counterattacks. But they hold it with fresh troops, resupply, reinforcements. Hunt's K Company did the impossible part. They held it alone for 30 hours when losing the point would have compromised the entire landing. The Butcher's Bill for K Company tells the story. Of the 35 Marines who took and held the point on September 15th, 27 became casualties. 9 killed in action, 18 wounded. 8 men walked off the point on their own feet. The company's overall casualties for the Peleliu operation would reach 64%, one of the highest casualty rates for any Marine unit in World War II. Captain George Hunt received the Navy Cross, the nation's 2nd highest award for valor. The citation noted his outstanding leadership and unwavering determination. Corporal John Teskovich, who stayed on his machine gun through 2 wounds, received a Silver Star. Multiple Bronze Stars went to Marines who held their positions despite injuries, exhaustion, and overwhelming odds. But the point's strategic value justified the cost. With Marines holding that ridge, Japanese artillery couldn't interdict White Beach. The 1st Marine Division could land reinforcements, supplies, and evacuate casualties. The airfield fell on September 18th, 3 days after the landing. If the Japanese had retaken the point, that timeline stretches. More Marines die on the beach. The airfield takes longer. The entire operation bogs down. Peleliu itself turned into one of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history. The island wasn't secured until November 27th, 1944, 73 days of fighting. The 1st Marine Division took 6,526 casualties, but Peleliu's airfield denied the Japanese a base to threaten MacArthur's return to the Philippines. The strategic calculus was brutal, thousands of casualties for an airfield. But in the island-hopping campaign across the Pacific, that was the math. Hunt's defense of the point became a case study at the Marine Corps' basic school. Small unit leadership under impossible conditions, resource management when resupply isn't coming, the decision to contract the perimeter rather than spread thin. These weren't abstract principles. They were life and death choices made by a captain with 35 men on a coral ridge. The lesson goes beyond tactics. Hunt and his Marines did what the Marine Corps has always asked: accomplish the mission regardless of cost. They were told to hold the point. They held it. When they had 23 men instead of 35, they held it. When they had 8 men instead of 23, they still held it. The position never fell. In modern military doctrine, the point represents what's called mission-type orders. Give capable leaders an objective and trust them to figure out how to achieve it. Hunt didn't wait for detailed instructions. He saw what needed to be done and did it. His Marines followed him because he stayed with them through every attack, every casualty, every impossible hour. 80 years later, the point on Peleliu is quiet. The caves are still there, the coral still sharp. But what happened on that ridge in September 1944 matters. It's a reminder that wars aren't won by plans or strategies or equipment. They're won by people who refuse to quit when quitting makes sense. 8 men out of 35, holding a position because someone had to. That's the story of the point. That's why it matters.